What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and Ricky Ross, the biggest boast that you've seen thus far, is getting clowned online again. And this time it's for flying commercial. But that's not all. His album that's set to be released this upcoming Friday on June 12th has also gotten pushed back. And people are having a field day with both of these things because Rick Ross, really the past, I want to say a month and a half, has practically ruined his career by doing interviews clowning Drake, by doing interviews acting like he's the bigger rapper when it comes to 50 Cent and Drake. And he even got exposed on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet David or whatever his name is. He was pressing him about stealing the real Rick Ross's identity and name. And he's just been having a horrible past month and a half when it comes to just who he is as a brand, identity, person. So let's first go over Rick Ross getting spotted flying economy. And this is funny because on Whisper My Name, Drake actually mentioned this in the song. He said, "If I'm lying, I'm flying economy. I bet I know who I see," which now is hilarious because we're seeing Rick Ross fly commercial and economy. But, there's probably various reasons to this. I'm somebody who's not really a fan of Rick Ross, never have been, even before he was beefing with 50 and before all that. Basically, when I found out he was a correctional officer back in 2008, I just stopped rocking with him because the music just didn't seem authentic to me anymore. But, people are clowning him for flying like this, but sometimes that happens to the best of the best. Any celebrity can be caught in this type of situation because there's probably multiple reasons. One, if he had a private jet to go to these tours that he's doing, probably somebody offered to pay to take his private jet. Not his private jet, but his spot in flying at that time with the private jet. And usually somebody offers you, let's just say you have a route to go on your private jet from Miami to, let's just say, Los Angeles. And there's somebody else that wants to use that private jet at that time. Sometimes you can give up your spot and say, hey, just pay me for whatever it is, and you can make your money back and then just fly commercial, especially if you don't have to be there immediately, right? Sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes you're just flying private just because of the luxury of it. But that's what usually private's for, is just to get to a spot way quicker than having to go through, commercial and all these other stuff. That takes a lot longer of a process. And, you pay for the convenience, the 10x price or 15x price with the private because of the convenience and the fast factor of it. I believe Kevin Hart talked about this. So that could be one reason why he wasn't flying private. Two, just to save money. Nothing wrong with that. Everybody, at a certain point, listen, if somebody paid for my private jet to go somewhere, I would legit pocket that money and just fly first class or business class and go somewhere, because private jets are anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 to $75,000 just to go somewhere. So sometimes it's not worth that. What's hilarious is 50 flies private literally everywhere. So when he does tours, he just went to Italy and flew private like it was nothing. Ross is doing his failed tour right now. He got exposed for having a failed tour by me. I exposed it on the Port of Miami 20th anniversary. No tickets. He sold out only 30% of the tickets, 40%, especially in Miami, in his hometown. He's struggling to do that. So he's had a terrible media coverage for the past month and a half. From his tour flop into now this flying economy, because he talks this talk about being the best and being rich and extravagant. And then he gets caught in this situation. Yeah, it could be to save money. Yeah, I know the internet clowns for some of the dumbest things, but still, at the end of the day, when you have this, oh, I'm the biggest boss, I'm better than everybody. I mean, he's talking about being better than Drake and being richer than Drake. What are we talking about here? We know Drake is richer. We know Drake is the bigger artist. When you're doing your tour and you have to perform mainly Drake records that are featured on your tracks, that's when you know he's a bigger artist and better artist than you. And then he talks about 50 and clowns him and says he lives in a 2-bedroom apartment, yet you see 50 flying private jets every single time he posts on Instagram, wherever he goes. Just went to Italy, like I said, past couple of days, flew private there. The worst thing about this economy photos that people took is that it looks like Rick Ross is trying to hide his identity by putting his hoodie up and trying to make sure that nobody sees him flying like this. So he might be ashamed of it himself, or he just did that because he doesn't want people coming up and trying to take photos and be like, yo, Rick Ross, what's up? Stuff like that. But still, at the end of the day, man, if you're doing all this clowning towards certain artists and you're saying you're the best and you're the biggest and the richest and the biggest boss and all this, to get caught like that is hilarious. It just shows that you're nowhere near what you are saying you are. Now, the next thing that people are clowning Rick Ross for, and this is very, very valid, is his album Set in Stone was set to be released this upcoming Friday on June 12th. And if you look, Drake's Iceman album is still number one and still selling over 100,000 first week. That would be embarrassing for Rick Ross to drop his album and the first week it'd be outsold by Drake's fourth week on the charts. That would be a huge blow to his ego, and people would clown him indefinitely. So he has pushed the album back, I believe. Let me see when the date is. It's been pushed back to July 17th. So another month, essentially. Because hopefully he's hoping by then Drake's Iceman isn't charting at number one anymore. Because it's been number one for 4 weeks now, selling over 100,000. At least the first week it did like whatever it did, the 400-something thousand. The second week it did 170, and it's still been doing 100 like every week. So that would be embarrassing if Drake, in 1 month into his album's release, is outselling Rick Ross's new release. So that's why he pushed it back. That's another blow to his ego, another blow to his career. So it's been back-to-back-to-back stuff, and I'm glad because this guy runs his mouth as if he's the biggest, the best, the greatest to ever do it. And then this pops up. He's flying economy. He's pushing his album back. His tour isn't selling worth of shit. And he's getting pressed by random podcasts like Patrick's, where Patrick just dismantled him. Shout out to him for actually being aggressive and asking these questions, because he was like, you literally stole the real Rick Ross's identity. And how does the rapper Rick Ross respond? Oh, he's a crackhead. He's this and that. He ain't got money, this and that. And then a month later, we see you flying economy, and your album's getting pushed back. You can't sell any tickets to your tour. Your book isn't even in the best New York Times bestsellers list. Nowhere near there. So he's failing in every aspect. And, anybody who ever thought Rick Ross was anywhere near 50 Cent or a Drake is just delusional in every way, shape, or form. Now, you can have your opinion on Rick Ross's music and say his music is better. That's your opinion. But the world disagrees, because the world is listening more to 50 and more to Drake than they ever are to Rick Ross. And people are going to, throw this dumb old argument of, well, Vanilla Ice did this. Well, MC Hammer did this. Does that mean that they're better? It's a whole different conversation. If you know your history in music, you know that back then you would have to literally buy a full album just to listen to one good song off the album. Singles were sold back then, but it was in a lot less quantities versus albums. So that's why those guys went platinum and diamond and all this stuff. Because if you look at their streaming songs right now, you'll notice that Vanilla Ice only has like 1 to 2 songs that actually stream good. Same with MC Hammer, because they have no other records. Versus 50, who has like 6 songs that are over 1 billion streams, like 20 songs that are over 500 million streams, like 30 songs that are over 100 million streams, which I'm exaggerating with some of the numbers, but you get my point, is that a lot of his music is doing well versus 1 or 2 songs. Same with Drake. So that argument just never made sense to me. It's low IQ argument. It's an argument when you don't know what you're talking about at all. You throw that out there and say, look, popularity doesn't mean that someone's better. Of course, having 1 good song or 2 good songs doesn't make you better than somebody. And that's the point. 50 doesn't have 1 or 2 good songs. He has albums that are considered great albums. Of course, Get Rich or Die Trying is considered classic all time. Anybody who disagrees with that is just a moron. But even The Massacre, even Curtis, even Before I Self-Destruct, yeah, they might not have sold as much. I mean, Massacre is the fastest selling album for black artists in music history since they started counting in 1991. So, that wouldn't happen if the guy didn't make great music. And there's hit records on that album. He is actually the first solo artist to have 3 songs in the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 at that time. That's how big 50 was impacting with his music. To say that he only had 1 record or that he had 1 good album is just that. I never understood that argument as well. Now, granted, Rick Ross has a lot more music out, a lot more albums out. But at the end of the day, the 5 albums that 50 put out versus the 10, I don't know what album this is, the 12th album, I think, or whatever he's releasing, versus the 5 that 50 put out. 50's getting way more traction off the 5 that he's put out versus Rick Ross's 12, which just goes to show sometimes it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And we know Drake. I ain't even got to make the argument for Drake. Right now, he's just breaking insane, dumb records left and right, and he's got hit records. You can do a tour and sell out in seconds. Like, there's no argument with Drake. That's not even anything that, if you don't like the music, that's just your opinion. at the end of the day. Your opinion doesn't make it fact. What makes it facts is the numbers. You look at the numbers, you look at the tours, which people say boosting streams with these artists, but when they go on tour, they sell out. So how is that fake? Where does the fake correlation come at? You can only boost so much. Now, if Drake was boosting, right, on streams, like everybody's accusing him of him doing these insane boosts and all fake, then if he went on tour, he wouldn't sell out. You'd probably get maybe 5,000 people to show up, which is still great, but still, that would be horrible versus the numbers that he's putting up. But no, he does a tour, sells out in seconds, in minutes, no problem. Same with 50, just did the final lap tour. Every area almost sold out. 90% in some areas, maybe 85% in some areas. But for the most part, he sold out basically everywhere, globally, not just in America, but globally. Because their music actually sticks with people. You can see the streams, you can see daily how much people are listening to the music. That's the beautiful part in today's time, is you can actually see daily what these people are listening to. And yet people still, oh, Rick Ross' catalog is better. Okay, that's your opinion. That's one person versus the 6, 7, 8 billion people. I don't even know how much people we got in the earth now because all this fertilization and all this other crazy shit that's happening. But you get my point. So yeah, Rick Ross is getting embarrassed, cooked, and rightfully so, man. I'm glad that he's getting cooked like this because he's been running his mouth, pretending like he's the biggest boss ever. And, he's flying economy. Album's getting pushed back because nobody gives a shit. Book isn't selling at all, not even nowhere near the New York Times bestseller. Tour is flopping. Every area is like at 30, 40% capacity sold. And that just tells you over time, like, it's the long game. It's not about, like, I remember this vividly in 2010. People were clowning 50, destroying him, saying Ross cooked you. He got hit records. He's hotter than you and all this. And what did 50 say in 2013, 2014? He was like, all right, he may have won the battle, but let's look at the war. And here we are with the war. And I do this in my Who Really Won videos. I talk about the battle and the war. The war is the long term. Let's see where you're at. And you compare 50 to Ross, long-term 50's destroying him. Like, it's not even from musically with the tours. From business-wise, he's dominating. 50's got deals lined up that are insane. But yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, man. I'm not really clowning Ross for flying economy. I think sometimes it's a smart decision to do. Nothing wrong with that. Like I said, if somebody was paying for me to fly private or to fly first class, I would honestly go to economy, pocket that money. I wouldn't care what anybody would say. To me, the internet and what they say. So for that, I don't really care too much. But for all this other stuff, him pushing his album back, his tour flopping, his book flopping, that I'm laughing at because he talks all this big game and talk, and he's struggling in every aspect of his career right now. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. That's it for today's video. If you guys want to support this channel further, you can do so at patreon.com/diverse mentality. For just $3 a month, you can get my videos uncut and raw the way I intended them to be, but couldn't because of YouTube. Plus, you also get access to our Discord community where we have a great community talking about hip hop and various other things. It's very dope. So only $3 a month. I'd really appreciate the support. Also follow us on social media at QuakeGW and at Diverse Mentality. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.